Brunei has been widely criticized for introducing Sharia law, or a more stronger version of it, in 2013, which they call the Sharia Penal Code Order. And the king, Hassan al-Bolkiah, has had his commission send a letter to the EU parliamentarians to clarify the misconception, which is the condescending way Islamists and leftists talk down on any critics. The letter is quite hilarious. It tries to justify how chopping of hands and stoning homosexuals is A, in line with international law, and B, a civil way of handling such matters. I will just go through with you step by step and give my little comments about it, because it starts with, for several centuries, Islam has been the official religion of Brunei Darussalam and the way of life of its people. Brunei is a small country, so this is again the tactic that they present themselves as a potential victim, playing the underdog. So Brunei is a small country with a small population, strong religious values, with a rich heritage of tradition and culture from the very foundation of the unique Bruneian identity, loving, peaceful and respectful community, which are important to be preserved, and hence the country is fondly known as the abode of peace. Brunei Darussalam takes pride in its own sovereignty, and like all other independent countries enforces its own rule of laws, reflecting our own cultural and religious values. For one, rule of law is a British terminology, and it used to mean that the law rules and not a ruler. The actual meaning is that even the king, that all hierarchies in the society have to be submitted under the law, and that it is equal for everyone, that there is an equality before the law. That is the rule of law. The law is above everybody. I do not think that King Hassan al-Bolkiah means what he or his delegation says. Accordingly, the realization of international human rights must be considered in the national context, bearing in mind the diversity and different political, economic, legal, social, political, historical and religious backgrounds of the world we share. So this is a way of chickening out of global contracts. This is also how we hear the left speak about human rights here in Germany. They say that America has a different interpretation of freedom of speech, for example. Everything is relative, and we just have these specialties that just can't, that can't be disrespected. Otherwise, our poor elites could not just run the country as they wish. And of course, it is just meshed with Lederhosen dance, or some foods in Brunei, as if some totalitarian or authoritarian mindset was the same nature as some cooking recipes. It must be appreciated that the diversity in culture, traditional and religious values in the world means that there is no one standard that fits all. That is the multicultural lie, that there must be diversity, and there is no prioritization. There is no, some things are so essential that they are common for all men. There is something given by our Creator, like basic human rights, that we are created as free human beings that have a right to defend themselves against tyranny. That is the basic idea of how we in the West see ourselves. But multiculturalism is quite the opposite. It says that, cultures are different, and there are just there's diversity, and you have to respect that some people are just doing weird things from the perspective of another people, and there's really nobody to judge what is better and what is worse, and particularly because there is no shared God, and no agreement that there is a creator that wants us to be free, that can judge that we all should be indeed equal and free. So this is the multicultural card they are playing, and by the way, I do not belong to the generation identity, and I'm defending people who are attacked unfairly, but for me, I do not understand what ethno-pluralism or such concepts actually mean, because I can respect differences, and I see differences in people and cultures, but they are not good for the sake of them. Things have their value, and they in themselves can be explained because they are reasonable. If they are not reasonable, if there is no explanation why we do things, why we believe in things, then we may reconsider them. Rationality is still somewhat above traditions, for example. Usually in Judaism, we have tradition to remember something. We still somewhat half through up Passover, and it is to remember how we freed ourselves through the Exodus from the slavery. Judaism is based on the idea of freedom and of leaving the chains behind, the shackles. This is this is with a purpose. A tradition is not followed just for the sake of it. Mostly we do connect something with it. We remember something, for example. But multiculturalism presents it as if traditions or habits or something must be kept for the sake of them, and I do not understand this mindset. Okay, we reaffirm our belief and trust that the United Nations embraces and continue to uphold the sovereign equality of all its members, as stipulated in Article 2 of the UN Charter. So they are showing their clause. There appears to be a misconception as to the application and or interpretation of the provisions of the Sharia Penal Code Order, the provisions of the Sharia Courts Evidence Order of 2001, and the Sharia Courts Criminal Procedure Code Order from 2018, which they would like to clarify. Our constitution provides that Islam shall be the official religion, but also explicitly recognizes the right of non-Muslims to practice their religions in peace and harmony. This does not really mean much. I'm not a specialist for Brunei, but I believe they are just standard Muslims. So at its core, now they are not really following it, but at its core, Christianity is a missionary religion. You cannot practice Christianity without trying to talk other people into it. Now we have a Vatican that basically does not try to convert Jews, which I find is a bit pity. I love discussing that. Basically, if you're a Christian living in a Muslim country, you are not allowed to freely live your religion and to spread the gospel, because spreading the gospel with sharing your views is the core of Christianity. And if you take that away, you don't have actually Christians anymore. Yet Islam does not really permit conversion, and if you dare to debate with a Muslim that other faiths could be better for him or her, then you are subject to death penalty, mostly, or at least to some other harsh penalty. So even if the constitution says they are free to practice their religion, they just mean they can walk into a room that says church, then they may come out and leave no traces. That's what they understand as freedom of religion. Brunei Darussalam practices a dual legal system which is based on the Sharia law and the common law. With the implementation of the Sharia penal code order, both systems will continue to run in parallel to maintain peace and order and preserve our religion, life, family, and individuals regardless of gender, nationality, race, and faith. The objective of Sharia is to create a society where religion, life, intellect, property, and lineage are preserved and protected. The Sharia penal code order aims to protect and respect the legitimate rights of all individuals, society, or nationality of any faith or race. The Sharia criminal law system focuses more on prevention than punishment. Its aim is to educate, deter, rehabilitate, and nurture rather than to punish. Now, this is an appeal, again, only to left-wingers, because conservatives are fine with the idea of punishment. There is some innate drive in us that understands we can only really deter crime if we punish, and there is a satisfaction and emotional gratification involved that comes from millions of years of evolution, that is there for a reason, and it is just to serve this emotional hunger. It takes to strike the right balance. I mean, now Sharia I'm reading. It takes to strike the right balance between protecting the rights of the accused person and the rights of the victims and their families. Similar to the common law system, the presumption of innocence and due process are strictly adhered to in ensuring a just and fair trial. Offenders are tried before a proper court, which is presided by qualified and trained judges, not only in Sharia law but also trained in the principles of the common law. The Sharia penal code order does not criminalize nor has any intention to victimize a person's status based on sexual orientation or belief, including same-sex relations. But here comes the kicker. The criminalization of adultery and sodomy is to safeguard the sanctity of family lineage and marriage of individual Muslims, particularly women. The offences therefore will not apply to non-Muslims unless the act of adultery or sodomy is committed with a Muslim. First off, it says it protects the lineage of the family and so on, and then it just speaks about you're only punished if you are doing it with a Muslim. So it isn't really about some rational goal. It is that Muslims must not sin, and homosexuality is a sin, and therefore they must be punished. Also, there is no way in hell that you have two witnesses who have seen somebody having sex with another person of the same gender. But most certainly it is enough that people are seen together. So this is paying lip service, and the reality on the ground would be much harsher than that. The government of Brunei Darussalam continuously protects the right of women. Women in Brunei Darussalam are given equal opportunities, among others, in education, training, healthcare, and employment, ownership of assets, benefits, and citizenship. I do not believe a word of this, but also I have the view that this is not even important. You don't have to have equal opportunity in employment, for example. There's no point. Even in the West, your opportunities of employment are strongly connected to what city you will live in and what profession you are capable of. The penal sentence of had stoning to death or amputation imposed for offences of theft, robbery, adultery, sodomy have extremely high evidentiary thresholds, requiring no less than 2 or 4 men of high standing, moral, and piety as witnesses, to the exclusion of every form of circumstantial evidence, coupled with very high standards of proof of no doubt at all for aspects. No doubt at all can't exist. Or, as a matter of fact, there is a lay debate in Germany that comes up again and again when legal matters are discussed. We are not very good at it. It's hardly done in public, and therefore people believe that there must be a certainty about a crime unless you can convict somebody, but that is not possible at all. Hardly any crimes come with videotape. There must be a certainty beyond reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt. That is important. Everything else is already a sign that people who are involved in the process are not honest. The standards of piety of the male witness is extremely high, that it is extremely difficult to find one in this situation and age, to the extent that convictions of had may solely rest on confessions of the offender. So here, I mean, it's ridiculous. They say, well, we have these harsh laws, but we hardly ever enforce them. And you are free to have a relationship, but also you can be questioned, and if you are found to admit that you had sex, you then are punished. It's crazy. And then it goes on with, unlike the common law principle, confessions are encouraged to be withdrawn and can be withdrawn at any time, even during execution of sentence. So during your pelting, your stoning, you are free to withdraw your confession, and you are encouraged. So the very basic of Sharia, the very basic sentiment of Sharia is that you don't have to be honest. Under the Sharia penal code order, the punishment of whipping is to be executed by the same gender. That's completely irrelevant, I would say. The offender must be clothed. Whipping must be with moderate force, without lifting his hand over his head, shall not result in the laceration of the skin nor the breaking of bones, and shall not be inflicted on the face, head, stomach, chest, and private parts. The imposition of death penalty for murder upon the satisfaction of extremely high evidential threshold can be avoided by a pardon from the next of kin of the victim, or upon payment of diyat, that's blood money, if requested by the next of kin. An individual counts very little in Islam. If you dishonor your family and somebody kills you, you may not even be revenged. The punishment of had and qisas, in the Sharia penal code order are not man-made laws, but are ordained by Allah in the Al-Quran and in the Hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, and not to be misunderstood as any kind of radicalization. Brunei Darussalam reaffirm its commitment to its international obligations in promoting and protecting human rights, as enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. As a responsible member of the international community, Brunei Darussalam will continue to uphold its obligations and adhere to international covenants on human rights, to which Brunei Darussalam is a party, including the conventions on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. That is so important, really, the discrimination against women. Brunei Darussalam's signature to the United Nations Convention against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment of Punishment in 2015 testifies our strong rejection to acts of torture. But they've just passed something or not just, they have something since 2013 that includes chopping of hands. Finally, in our efforts to demonstrate further our commitment, Brunei Darussalam is currently working towards advancing the necessary steps for early ratification of said doctrine. The mission of Brunei Darussalam to the European Union avails itself of the opportunity to renew to the honourable members of the European Parliament the assurance of its highest consideration. I personally do not share that high esteem of our EU Parliament. So that is the letter. If our elites were smart, they would recognize that multiculturalism does not work, and ultimately that there must be a common ground beyond treaties, beyond international treaties, and this is the conflict between conservatives and globalists. I would say conservatives believe that our basic rights to our freedom are innate because our creator wants us to be free. Internationalists always appeal to human rights, but they are also chunking the value of international treaties because they are signing so much these days, and a lot of them are just proclamations that are not binding. So ultimately, they fail to give a reason why we should take the Human Rights Declaration seriously if that is just a treaty among many. And that was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.